What do you got? Yeah!
What's up, bud?
Oh, man. I'm good.
Man.
I'm good.
It's good to see you. This is the third time we've done this for the Toddcast. But the first that, of course, we've been able to do this face-to-face, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. It's good to see you.
How's it going?
It's interesting. As I know that you've been informed of what we're up to.
Yeah, we have big news. We're going to share this podcast. We'll get to that later on. This is the hook, the tease of why Trevor Hurst of Econoline Crush is joining us for his third appearance on the Toddcast. But
yeah,
I'm wondering, as a medical professional, that's what you do on your side hustle when you're not rocking the world.
Yeah.
What's your take on COVID-19 and how everybody's reacted to it? How the world has kind of somewhat quarantined? Not really. Is it bigger than it is? Is it smaller than what it was? What's your take?
Well, when I got one of my first jobs, there was 2 shipping containers out front of the building, right? And one of them, the back half of it was full of stuff for H1N1 in preparation for the community, just in case something went on. So this is worse, and this one's tougher than that. And it's a virus. It's real. It's very, very contagious. Just we're lucky, like people are lucky. It's odd too. It's a really odd virus. Like there's all these odd sort of statistics, things floating around, misinformation, all this other stuff. So people really don't know a lot about it. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I would just say that it is a real thing. I think wearing a mask, I don't know why that became such a deal. It's like, just wear a mask. It's no big deal. It's like, remember those bandanas we used to have in the 80s or whatever, in the 90s? You'd have these bandanas. Remember? Like now you can have that legit, like, and put it on, like, be a cowboy. Come on.
Yeah, no, it's amazing that people fight that. Hey, it's like, it not only helps like you and your family and your friends, but it's also helping the frontline workers.
Well, exactly. Have you ever seen that? I think it was on Twitter. I saw it where the guy's naked is peeing, and there's another guy like a few feet away, and he's naked and he's getting pee on his leg.
Yeah.
And they're like, had the guy over here been wearing pants and you were wearing pants, you probably wouldn't have got any pee on you at all. That's how masks work.
Right. And and how not funny, but for a lack of better phrasing, how funny is it that the attention now has shifted to the riots, and then suddenly, oh shit, we're still in a pandemic, everybody.
Yeah, like I watched that, and I'm really worried of what we're going to see. But what's kind of unfortunate, or whatever, of this situation and all that comes with all those riots, we're going to realize pretty quickly how real this thing is. Because if we come back and it's just a moderate or even low case count, then maybe we know this virus is not as strong as we thought it was. If it comes back heavy, it could be a lot of trouble.
Well, I thought that was going to be the case, Trevor, when they, about a month back, I guess, when Dr. Bonnie had said, okay, we're going to open it up slow, but,
yeah,
get your bubble a little bit bigger, and maybe go to the park or whatever. And then suddenly Ambleside, park here, Stanley Park, White Rock, all these different places have like way more people than normal, than if like literally thousands of people. And at that point I was kind of bracing for, oh man, here it comes now. And it really didn't come. And I think that in the last 24 hours, there's been one case in British Columbia, one new reported case.
I know, it's interesting. So then what are the factors there? Maybe it's just because the gathering was outside.
Yeah.
Maybe this is something that just cannot function once it's hitting the sun or hitting the wind. Whereas, like, the scary thing is, I do believe indoors, like say two workers or 2 friends or whatever telling a really enthralled in a story in a stairwell in an apartment building, and then they take off, and you come out and you walk down that stairwell. If you've walk through the area where they were talking, and one of those guys was asymptomatic, but still was carrier, you could potentially get it, within 8 minutes of that conversation.
Wow.
Because it just hangs aerosol in the air, And again, a mask prevent that.
Well, let's shift gears here a little bit. I know you're a hockey fan.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the abbreviated 2020 COVID playoffs?
It's weird. I think it just gets an asterisk, right? Like it goes down history.
Right. And do you want your team to win in an asterisk year?
It's strange. Yeah. Right. And it's like the guys that know how to kind of come out of the gate. Like there was probably so many guys. Can you imagine? You're sitting at home, wife and kids. You're a science guy, man. And you're like, honey, come on, another sub. I'm starving. She's like, you're going to lose your, He's like, we're never going back. Forget about it. And then all of a sudden ring. What? Mouth full of hoagie. And you're like, oh God, I got to go play hockey.
Right.
Like, I wonder how many guys were not staying in shape.
Oh yeah, man. Probably all of them.
I don't know. I think there's going to be some keeners out there that were really like, when I come back, I'm good,
Who were you liking before the virus hit?
Well, I'm always like, I'm partial. And it's strange how I got there, so I should explain it, because a lot of people are always saying, well, how could you be a Philadelphia Flyers fan? I became a Philadelphia Flyers fan because of Reggie Leach and Bobby Clark. They were both from like Flin Flon, and I think they're both from Flin Flon, or they're both up north anyway. Yeah. And I actually spoke to Reggie Leach on the phone from a radio station in Winnipeg when he was being honored in the Manitoba, I guess it was athletics or whatever, Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame. So yeah, so I was hoping for the Flyers. I'm always hoping for the Flyers.
Right. I think we're losing our connection here. What have you been watching? Have you been watching anything lately or what?
Did you watch that? What was it called? With Bateman.
Yeah, Ozark.
No, that other one. Where he was like, was it called Ozark? No, it wasn't. Where it was a Stephen King novel before.
Oh.
And there was a kids. There's a demon going from body to body to body, murdering people. And it
Jason Bateman?
Yeah. I think it was Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman. I'm just going to get my producer. My producer is going to look this up for us right now.
Get that producer to look that up.
Get my producer to look that up for us. Jason.
And the girl, there's a woman that's an actress in that new series on HBO called Run. She was in it.
And you think it was a Stephen King?
No, she wasn't. Yeah, Stephen King wrote it, I think.
The Outsider.
Yeah. Oh,
haven't
man.
Seen it, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. I thought you were talking about the Ozark. If you haven't seen that, dude, whew,
really?
Like, I'll tell you, Jason Bateman has got to be one of the best actors of certainly last few years.
It's amazing how he's like come from where he was to where he is now. Like, wow.
Right. Because there was a time where he was written off pretty much. He
could have been a, what was it? What was the other guy? The other guy in that 21 Jump Street. You had Richard Grieco. He could have been a Richard Grieco.
Yes. Wow. Ouch. Oh man. And so The Outsider is really good then. I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Right on.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, you get in this time when you're quarantined and you should be binging, watching movies, and we have kind of as a group, as a family, as whatever. But music has been more of a thing, like just working on music, and then also all the other side of music, and so it's just that's been my consuming thing totally almost for the whole coronavirus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the silver lining, is to be with family and then kind of just do whatever you want.
Well, yeah, and it did kind of, it definitely like highlighted, I think, how much we kind of take for granted. We're kind of like blasting through life and going, yeah, I'll get around to it. Yeah. And, you know, you're not doing stuff with your kids or whatever, and going to concerts. Like, you just think it's just going to go on forever. And all of a sudden, you know, you can't go to a concert. You can't go to a sporting event. It rocks your world, doesn't it? Like,
I can't remember who I was talking. It was recently. I was talking to, it might have been the guys in Bleecker, or maybe it was Aaron from AWOL Nation. No, it was Aaron from AWOL Nation.
Yeah.
And he goes, you know, like it's so crappy because we can't even go see shitty concerts. let alone the ones we want to see. We can't even see shit shows right now.
Yeah.
Which is so true. What do you think, by the way? What do you think of the idea? And I don't know if this is still something that Live Nation is still wants to implement, but certainly in the last little while, they talked about perhaps bringing shows like you would get in a drive-in theater, where you would drive up, you'd see the show, you know, maybe put the speaker, you mess with the volume in your car or whatever. Did you hear about that idea, and what did you think of it?
Well, it's interesting because, like, I think it was, I don't know, I'm trying to think what year it was. It was early 2000s. I was having dinner with this guy, Tommy Nast, who's a radio guy, and two gentlemen from, I think it's Regis Pictures, which was this chain of, is that the right name? Regis, I think. It was a chain in the United States. And what they were working on was trying to do concerts like on the screen. So like it would be like a live event, but you could go in, you know, Cleveland and watch the show from Chicago in the movie theater.
Great.
And it was going to be multi-camera and everything. But it just doesn't work. Like, it just doesn't work.
Not really. It's like when they do that with hockey games and stuff, and they put them in the arenas, and you're watching a game from Chicago and Toronto, but you're sitting in Rogers Arena, you know. It's like,
yeah,
I
can sit at home.
Hockey.
Yeah, like, and there's, you know, there's reasons why the crowd works. There's pheromones there, right? You get enough people in a room, and the pheromones are flying around, and people get heightened and they get excited, and there's a whole connection, and this thing happens, and you just cannot duplicate that. You know, you can duplicate, or you can create something else, which I'm not saying couldn't happen, but just sort of have that excitement of a concert. Yeah. No.
Yeah. And when you look back over your career with Econoline Crush, we've talked a little bit about, you know, touring and stuff and opening up for Kiss and all that. What are some of the key moments, if I'm pressing you for 3 right now? Like, what are some where you're just like, I fucking cannot believe that this is happening to my band right now?
Like 3 things that I could think of from my whole career.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you know how it's interesting, like, as you age and you go through life, I don't know if everybody does this, but I tend to like to revisit some advice I get and how I processed it at the time and see if I want to process it any differently. And I can remember working on, I don't know if it was You Don't Know What It's Like or Make It Right. But there was a moment in time where it was just kind of like myself, Ziggy, and Bob Rock in the studio. And Bob says, you know, I said something about, oh man, this is so cool, the way this sounds. And Ziggy was like, yeah, man, it's Hitsville, USA, or something. Like he said, you know, it was really funny, like just the way he said it. Bob looked at him and he was like, you know, it doesn't matter what happens with the song. I mean, you should be like involved in the process. Process is the answer. That's where the, you know, the meat of it is, or whatever. And I can remember like looking at Bob and looking at Zig and kind of watching this go down and going, man, what a bunch of bullshit. We got to sell some records, you know, like, you know, I was like,
oh, the process is fine, but dude, we need this to be a big song.
Yeah. And but now I understand what he's talking about, because like at the end of the day, you know, you don't know what the hell your song's going to do. But you will record, and you will record, and you will record, and you'll build this thing. And if you enjoy building the machine, which we do so much, we've been doing it and doing it and doing it for over all these years, and rebuilding it, and tooling it, and fixing it, and changing it, and building it, tearing it up, and building it again. We've been doing it so many times that you start to understand, hey, man, it's the process. It's the process of recording, writing, fighting for the parts, losing the battle for the parts, going over, arrangements. It's cool, man. The whole thing is cool. It's a blessed existence. And I think the sooner in your career you learn that, the better. Another moment I can think of right now is just walking on to the stage at Madison Square Garden's opening for Kiss and just looking at that roof and going, and then kind of thinking, damn it, I wish I was here in a Flyers jersey.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then
pause. Do you remember what you opened that set when you opened up for Kiss at MSG? Do you remember the song you opened with?
I don't remember what we opened with, but the third song in was Home. And so what we would do was, what I did was, my record reps and we'd go and and it was cool because lots of times, man, we'd go and we'd get to meet the people, the GMs or somebody from promotions in the organization. But I'd always ask for a jersey. The Kiss guys were so cool. They loved us. They loved the band. And so one of the guys just volunteered. He's, I'll do follow spot for you. So we had this whole thing rigged out. So when we finished the first two songs, I would run behind the guitar rig and throw on the jersey. And so that night it was the Ranger jersey of the town, run back to the center stage, do the Jesus Christ pose, and wham, they'd hit it with a spotlight and everybody would go bananas, right?
Yeah.
And so I can remember that, just wearing that jersey and the light hits you and everybody's just like, Rangers, this is crazy.
Like, the Phillies would be nice right now.
Yeah. But when we went to Philadelphia, man, it was unbelievable because we were in this giant room and it was like it was like a break. So everybody was in there, like maintenance guys and trainers and all these people. And I was sitting by at the time, our road manager and sound man, Fabrizio Del Monte. And we're sitting, this guy's walking away across the other side of the room, and I go, hey, Fab, see that guy over there? See that guy? And he's like, yeah. I go, his name's Rocky. He was the trainer when Fred Shiro was the coach.
Nice. And
this guy goes by behind us in a suit, and he stops, and he goes, what'd you say? In his Philly accent. And I'm like, nothing, man, nothing, another thing. We're just having some food. I was just making a comment. Nothing. It's cool, thanks, man. And he's going, no, what'd you say? And I said, that's Rocky. He was the trainer when Fred Shearer was the coach. Like when he handed him the bucket to put the towel in to get Don Cherry. You remember that stuff?
Yeah.
And he's like, man, you must be a hell of a Flyer fan. And I go, I am. And he goes, come with me. We went in the dressing room. I got 3 hockey sticks. I got a puck. I got Lindros was playing for them at the time. I got a Lindros jersey. It was unbelievable. Wow. Yeah.
Like and all through rock.
Yeah, all through rock and roll.
Look at that.
And another quick hockey story. One time we were playing in Albany, New York, and I see these guys walking down the hallway, and I go, "Hey, Canadians!" And half of them turn around and they go, "How do you know we're Canadians?" And I go, "Come on, you're hockey players, aren't you?" Yeah. And they come back, and they're from Saskatchewan or something. So we have this chat, and it's just a funny shit. But the guy goes, this older guy, this veteran, he goes, hey, man, you want to have some fun? I go, sure. And he goes, come on, play along. So we go down into this office area and past the secretary. He's like, I'm Myrtle. And she's like, hey. We go into this little room and he goes, hey, Chief, got the guy from Slovakia here, the new defenseman. What do you want me to do with him? And I'm just standing there.
Nice.
The guy looks up at me, looks at that guy, looks back at me. Then all of a sudden the hockey player starts laughing. We both start laughing. He goes, Jesus Christ, oh my God. And, like he was just so scared that they'd actually drafted somebody who looked like me.
Nice. Trevor, hit me with your 3 deserted island albums that you'd need to have.
Wow.
Like, impossible question.
I know it's really tough, right? But if I was just to think about it really quickly, I'd see like I'd want one of the Soundgarden, Protection by what is that band called? Damn it, it's escaping me right now. Electro pop band from the 90s from Britain. Massive Attack, Protection.
Okay.
And then U2 October. Weird, hey?
I don't know that I would have been able to pick any of those. Well, maybe the Soundgarden.
Yeah.
Definitely Soundgarden influence in your music.
Definitely.
There's definitely that.
Well, Seattle, because like that's where we hung out, like, and as we were forming the band, and who we'd go see. You know, we had friends in Grunt Truck and Tad, and so we'd go see these bands. We had Mondo from Poison Idea do a Canadian tour with us. You know, punk band from Portland. So yeah, we always had a connection to the northwest of the U.S. for sure.
Yeah, had Cornell taken his life last we talked? How fucked up has that been in the last little while? All the people we've lost.
That is strange. I had heard stories so back in the day that like he was pretty volatile dude. I just think Chester, that's strange too. Like,
really good friends with Chris, and he killed himself on Chris's birthday.
Yeah. So that's just I know, it's nutty, and there's a lot of people too, like that end up passing away, and it's, you know, some kind of like disease or whatever, but you know, it really was like one of those leaving Las Vegas scenarios too. I know many cases where people kind of either drank or drugged themselves to death, you know, that don't kind of get listed as a completed suicide.
Yeah.
And something we should talk about, like as far as musicians, I mean, it is a mentally, I think as a group of people, they're a lot more sensitive, and they're a lot more exposed, sort of, in a lot of ways, because, you know, you're putting your work out there for judgment. People say a lot of harsh things. People treat you kind of subhuman when they're reviewing your work. So then you're kind of like, whoa, you know, it kind of hurts. So like,
this guy that can't play a fucking chord just told you how much your album sucks. Like, really, bud?
I know it's crazy, but I get it though. Like, I get it. Whatever. It's all part of the machinery, right? Like, you just you gotta, you know, plow through or get chewed up and thrown out the back.
Yeah.
I like it. I appreciate the battle. I really do. I really appreciate it.
And speaking of the battle,
yes.
When do we hear a new Econoline Crush record?
Well, a new record is on its way. A new single, or a newish single. So we re-recorded "Get Out of the Way," song we had recorded back in 2008. So we re-recorded that, and it's really kind of fun because we were recording it just to launch this new label, this new relationship we were building, and this whole thing. And as we were doing that, all of a sudden, this pandemic kind of explodes, and we're like, wow. And so we kind of used it in a way, and all the lyrics and everything seems so applicable to the pandemic and to the situation right now. And so it kind of worked out great in that sense. I mean, it sucks, there's a pandemic on, but we thought, well, you know what, we're going to put it out anyway. We're going to work it. We're going to put it out anyway and see what happens. Which
unveils the big news, the key reason that we have you on the Toddcast today. So Trevor Hurst, Econoline Crush, tell us what is up and new in your world.
Well, we've got a bunch of things on the go, but the biggest thing I think for us is that we did a deal with Amalien Records in Vancouver. It's an independent label. We're distributed through In Grooves Universal, so it's exciting.
Very cool.
Yes. And while we were working on that, I became the president of the label, so I kind of have some control of that situation.
So yeah, walk us through how. Okay, so initially it was like, hey, do you want to come jump on, and we're gonna get out of the way. We're gonna do with a distribution through Canada. We'll get it into the States as well. How do you walk from that to like, sure, I'll be the president of your label? How does that happen? Give us walk us through the steps that. How did that happen?
How to become your label president.
What?
I know, it's a strange thing.
Super cool, by the way. Super cool.
I think what just happened was that I was like, okay, we got like, they'd hired a consultant, and I phoned a bunch of people that I'd had relationships with in the American music business, and kind of got the lowdown on the consultant. Phoned them back and said, okay, so this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And really, like, we should be doing, A, B, C, and D in this order. We should try and set this like this. And so I had a lot of input into what was going on. And a couple of the things that we brought to the table in terms of a band, and then as myself as sort of like being creative or having ideas and just getting going, I don't know, it worked out. It was like so they were really kind of impressed. And so Amal was like, okay, man, I'd like to offer you something, and I want you to seriously consider it. And at first I thought it was just crazy, like it's just lunacy. But after a while I was like, you know what? No, I think that's kind of cool. Like, because the whole goal of getting back to doing this music thing more forcefully and more full time was because, I'd been doing some work. The other thing that we have going on is we have a documentary coming up. So I segueing kind of poorly there, but we have a documentary coming out called Flatlander, and it's sort of about my graduating from Brandon University with a Bachelor of Science in Psychiatric Nursing, getting a job at Chinook-Boapka Dakota Nation, and being there for almost 3 years, being their home and community care nurse, and just getting involved in the community. And so I'm filmed doing this whole process, and the whole time also playing shows and trying to figure out where it is I should be going. And I realized that when I got involved in advocacy work for all people that are kind of like marginalized, but in particular this community I was working with, that as a musician, as a public figure, you have a bigger audience and you may have bigger impact. It sucks because people hold on a negative towards you and your music, which sucks. But at this point in my life, I have kids, I have done a lot of things. I think it's courage here and step up and say, look, this stuff is wrong. And one of the biggest things that I talk about in the documentary is just the way that the First Nations are treated in this country. It's a very just difficult situation. So I would like to see, there be change. I'd like to see there be dialogue. And if I can encourage that dialogue and encourage, maybe people opening their eyes and to the situation and having empathy for others rather than sort of just thinking about themselves. I think that would be cool. And then also bringing some really great rock and roll simultaneously. It's like just trying to have some fun,
Just a couple birds, one stone.
Yeah.
Any idea when the documentary is out? That's cool, man. I didn't know that. That's amazing news. Fucking fantastic news.
It's gonna, and see, the cool thing about the documentary is it needs a soundtrack too. So we're working on that right now. So you have the soundtrack for a rock record. Basically, we're putting out a rock record like a normal rock band would do. Then we're doing this soundtrack thing. And then I was just going through a bunch of stuff tonight, and there's all these crazy old demos, and I was like, man, we should just do like a demo reel. So like there might be just a ton of music coming out.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing too for us is like, if this change happens, we have to figure out how to, like, you know, as a band, how are we going to get our message out then if we're not playing shows? And how do we make the experience online, which is very different than concerts, more attractive or whatever for the viewer? And I think for us, it's going to be probably giving some insight into the process, because again, going back to the process, that's an important part of it. And us working on songs or talking and having little clips of that, and then play the song and then explaining, you know, why this was this and this was that, you know, why we made those moves and had those instruments come in there, you know. And I think it'd be cool insight for fans to see how things get put together.
Oh, it's a great idea. 100%. So is this where I say, Trevor, are you looking for bands to submit to Amalien Records?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Do you want to hear from just a ton of people? Are you going to be signing a shit load of bands in the next little while, or?
Well, we've got a couple bands that we're signing right now. But we're definitely not like, you know, Virgin Records or anything, but we're doing our best. I think we'll see what comes in like this fall. And going into the spring of next year, I think it's going to be a lot of focus on the acts. Like we have a band we're working with from Tennessee called Artifice, and we have a couple Vancouver acts that were part of Amalien Records before. So yeah, I don't know how many bands, but I definitely would like to hear music. I mean, like if there's a band that just blows your socks off, are you not going to sign them? I mean, you'll find a way, right? It's kind of, it's sort of like that when you're buying those old vinyls and stuff. It's like, I can't really, okay.
Oh man, I can't believe I've got to cap it here, but I probably should stop. Fuck it. One more. I can buy
one.
Just
one more. Yeah.
So where's the best place for people to reach out to you then?
www.econolinecrush.net, amalienrecords.com. We have the usual Twitter and whatever, and we can probably give you the links.
Facebook and stuff. Yeah, I'll put all that stuff up.
Yeah.
Awesome. Trevor, it's really good to see you, man. Oh, by the way, we were talking before the COVID, you know, about getting you out this way for an Econoline Crush / Toddcast show at the Railway, and I'm sure we'll probably eventually get that happening again. But I just wanted to let everybody know that was in the plans for this summer.
That was in the works.
But that ain't happening right now, kids. Who knows? Like, I have no idea when they're going to have 100+ person gatherings for these Toddcast shows. I couldn't tell you when that's happening again.
I don't know, but at least you got you got a new merch item, you know, the Toddcast face mask.
That's right.
It's a new merch item. Here we go.
Trevor, it's good to see you, bud. We'll see you online.